In 3, 2, 1.
John, are we live?
We're live, sir.
What's going on, buddy?
Not too much. How are you today?
I'm good. As always, I'm pretty excited about the show.
Love
get
it.
to drink a little bit on air today, which is cool.
I know.
Always.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'll let you do your shout outs, and then I haven't thought about one yet. But while you're doing your shout out, I'll think of my weekly shout out.
All right. Well, first I got to turn down
your
other audio. I know. So my 2 shout outs, actually. One reverts back to last week. My friend Christine, who teaches and does people's hair, did some free for first responders, the haircuts.
Oh, yeah, the September 11th program.
Yeah, and we talked, and people who heard, actually, there were 3 haircuts that she did for people because of this show.
Because of WheelHouse?
Yep.
Super cool.
That was cool. I like that.
Very cool. So shout out to the first responders who were listening to the show. Cool.
Absolutely. And my other shout out is to you, sir.
See, I can't top your shout outs now. He always one-ups my shout outs. And so for sure today I can't one-up you.
No.
And I can't one-up the hair thing.
Yeah.
You, I believe, just had a birthday.
I did.
Another trip around the sun. You look good. It sounds like you had a good weekend.
Yeah.
And my shout out, I can't believe it's been a full year. Well, we've been doing this for a year and a half, almost. And it just seems like yesterday was your last birthday, and here we are again. So happy birthday. Whatever you're doing, you're doing right. So just keep on keeping on.
I appreciate it. Are you going to sing happy birthday like I did once for you?
I am not.
So I sang happy birthday to him once, and then he cut that clip and then tagged American Idol, tagged The View, tagged The Voice, and everything else. So
I would be happy to sing happy birthday.
I can't cut anything anyways because I'm not efficient with or
just figure,
have enough knowledge to cut anything. So
whoever is watching, if I start singing, they're going to tune out. So we're trying to build our audience. So happy birthday.
Thank you. My shout out is on Friday I went to one of our former guests' events. I went to the Green Tie Ball. So shout out to Michelle. I know she watches the show. I saw her. Saw Candace too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw Candace and Michelle there. But shout out. I know putting on an event that's of that scope and magnitude is not easy to do. So shout out to them for another successful event this year.
That's really cool. Yeah. And the money they raise
substantial.
to beautify Chicago, and that's great.
Yeah, it was cool to stop by and obviously see the event, and we had them on air, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should have them back.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right.
I'm going to jump in because I think we have a lot of things to talk about, and I'm excited to have a drink on air. Our guest today is Cleetus Friedman. I'm going to read this out because he's done a whole lot of stuff. He's the executive chef right now at Theater on the Lake. He's the CEO and founder of Crafted by Cleetus. He's the creator of his own Bloody Mary mix, which we're going to try today with some vodka. It's Cleetus Heatus. He also is the creator of Cleetus Heatus Bloody Mary popcorn. Yeah. And he's created a bunch of other stuff as well that I'm going to let him touch on. But thank you for coming on.
Is there always so much love in this room at the beginning of the show? Because I'm feeling
love?
Really good.
Yeah, we do a pretty good job of trying to love on our guests.
It's all downhill.
I meant to each other, not to me. But the two of you are loving on each other. It's pretty great.
Yeah, birthday love typically ends up happening. But we do tease each other from time to time.
Of course.
Indeed.
Of course. It's even keeled.
He is a good one-upper. So what we always do at the top of the show is we'll have a shout-out or two. And he'll usually hit the first responders. He'll hit a tragedy. Somebody
pull the heartstrings.
Heartstrings hard. Sure. And then I always just kind of like shout out to this person.
Right. And I'd like to say hi to my sister.
And puppies.
Right.
And
he is like always the best one-upper. So today I can't top you. You shout it out to me. Thanks.
Well,
buddy.
it's you.
Well, you got you and you got me here. So
I got you.
Hopefully we'll one up him.
We'll two up.
Right.
And then we'll have a little Bloody Mary.
Yeah, I'm excited. So tell us about Theater on the Lake and your involvement with them.
So Theater on the Lake is it was built in 1920. Everybody in this city knows this place. It's on the lakefront at Fullerton. And it opened in 1920 as an open-air sanitarium for tuberculosis patients.
Really?
And the joke is, why not put a restaurant there? But in the late 30s, it shut down. And the USO took it over, and during the war, it was a safe house and a hospital. And then after the wars, the Park District took it over in the early 50s. Then they started doing plays and shows, and it would go in and out of productions. And then it kind of sat dormant for a long time. An RFP went out. John Wren, who owns Lakefront Hospitality Group, won it over and decided to fund this amazing project. It's a restaurant, it's an event space, and it's a theater. And it's a fully blown theater. I mean, if you've been to a show at Theater on the Lake, you were sitting in the middle of this building that was just all open air. It was hot. You could hear Lakeshore Drive. Now it's absolutely gorgeous, state-of-the-art theater. So on one end of the building is a 150-seat restaurant. On the other is the theater, and in the middle is an event space. And there are tons of events there, booking all the way into 2021.
Wow.
The restaurant does lunch, dinner, and brunch on Saturday and Sunday. It's quite the show over there.
Yeah, and it was how many years ago did they do that like big overhaul renovation? Because it's recent, right?
There was the revetment project on the lakefront where there was about a 3-acre build out of green space on just north of North Avenue, right at Fullerton, and then all the way up to Diversity Harbor. They kind of redid the lakefront.
Yeah.
Then 3 years ago, it was October of 2016, Theater on the Lake started the rehab of the building. At the same time, there was a construction on the bike path to separate the path to be bicycles in one lane and pedestrians in other. Yeah. So, and that has now spanned from Foster all the way down to, I believe, Oak Street. But it started right in front of the property at Theater on the Lake at the same time our construction started.
That's about when I lived in Streeterville, and I used to run from basically like Illinois all the way to Fullerton and back, because I think that was like the 10K, and I think North Avenue was basically like my 5K, so I used to make that run all the time. And it felt like it was under construction forever.
It definitely was, and you could see it, and you could feel it, and that whole thing, it's just so beautiful now.
Yeah.
And if you ride the bike path, like I do pretty frequently, it's absolutely a pleasure to ride along the lake path or walk now. You don't have to ride your bike worrying about rollerbladers or strollers or people just jutting out. It's separated, and it's like I said, I've gone all the way up to Bryn Mawr, and it's just beautiful how the bike path kind of splits down Montrose and goes along the harbor, Montrose Harbor. It's beautiful. But right in front of Theater on the Lake, we have this beautiful campus. It's a 20-acre campus that runs from just south of Fullerton to all the way up to Diversity Harbor.
Awesome. And your involvement as the executive chef, it seems like you have a lot of different things that you have to both curate and also take care of, because you have, like you said, the lunch, you have the dinner, and then you have event planning, which is a totally different undertaking because you're cooking for, I always thought about this. I said, if you're cooking for a handful of people and it's lunch and dinner, it's one thing. But then if you're cooking for an event and you got 100, 200, 500 people, I don't know what your capacity is, that's a completely different idea.
Well, it's interesting because when I was designing the kitchen, I knew right away that we weren't going to be able to handle both the restaurant and the events. So what we did is we brought on 2 caterers, now 3 caterers, Blue Plate Food for Thought and Entertaining Company. Whereas if you're having an event at Theater on the Lake, you need to use one of these catering companies. We handle the bar, we handle the facility, and the catering company handles the rest. Keeping up with production of food just for the restaurant is hard enough with this small space. It's a 16,000 square foot space, and the kitchen is 1,000 square feet.
That's crazy. And how long have you been an executive chef with them?
Since October of 2016.
So right when they kind of renovated.
Yeah, I helped with the design of the space and the build out, implementing all the systems and training and pretty much everything to get it up and running.
Very cool.
And it opened November of 2017.
And how long have you been a chef?
I've been in the restaurant business for 30 years.
Okay.
I started, and I'm from Baltimore originally. I always knew I wanted to cook, And my first job when I was 14 was in a restaurant, and I've never been out since.
That's awesome. We were talking off air a little bit. You said, tell the story of what motivated you and enticed you to be a chef.
My mother will. I give my mother credit for it. You know, I grew up when I was really young. My parents were. My father worked and my mother stayed at home, and she basically cooked. That's what I knew of my mom. She not only cooked for people coming over, but she used to make these crazy cakes for everybody would come to her to make their birthday cakes, and she was super talented. And I started to really enjoy being in the kitchen, and then I started to see food and people gathering as food like community, and that really meant something to me. And I used to watch Jeff Smith, The Frugal Gourmet, a lot when I was a kid, and Julia Child, and I always talk about Young Can't Cook. These cooks on TV, kind of, I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. And for a long time, I heard, chefs don't make money, and this and that and the other thing, and that it's never been a driving force behind what I do. It's loving what you do and having the capacity to be creative and enjoy that. So I've been lucky enough to work for a lot of great chefs in my career and find out what I like to do, find out what I don't like to do. It's like any relationship. The more relationships you have, the more you realize, oh, this is what I like in a friend. That's what I don't want in a friend. And this is how I like to run a kitchen. And this is how I like to motivate people, and finding those things and then being able to teach what you love and inspire someone else is really a great gift.
Well, what's really fantastic is it started off with such a passion. And like you said, the money wasn't the motivating factor because you really had a passion for it. And the creativity that you touched on, I think that's such an important thing to being able to be a chef, because I've always maintained that if you gave me a recipe, I can probably do a decent job of following it because I can follow instructions. But if you ask me to create something or be creative and come up with a menu or or evolve like a dish in a way that makes it better, or we were talking off air about like how you can make something a whole 30 dish. You know, being able to do things like that effectively and constantly, really, you got to have a creative mind. It's one thing to be able to be good at being a chef, but you must have a creative mind to do that.
Well, that's also the balance of the world we live in, and that's why people love restaurants, and that's why people write cookbooks. You can buy a cookbook. You could probably take a cookbook home and follow the directions, and if I write a recipe and you come and have the dish in the restaurant or wherever I am or whoever chef is, and you love it, then you try to duplicate it at home and it doesn't taste the same, that's okay. As long as I always talk with my recipes, you can do what you want in your kitchen. Use my recipe as a guideline, because ultimately you're going to make it yours. You're going to add your twist to it, whatever that may be. You might add a little more spice, a little more acid, whatever the case may be. That's the joy of creating anything, really, is that you get to make it your own. And cooking is a lot like comedy in the sense that a lot of us are doing the same thing. We're just putting a different spin on it. You might hear the same joke from the same comedian, but they tell it in a different way, or they put a little different spin on it. It's no different when you have the same brisket from 5 different chefs. They're just putting a different spin on it. And it could be, you go to a Korean restaurant and you have their squid pancake, right? They're all going for that same dish, but they all have a little different take on it. And you might say, oh, I like this one better, I like that one better. But part of the creative process is that I have that creative ability to do that, and it's my interpretation of whatever I'm doing. And some people like it and some people don't, and that's totally fine.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting parallel with the comedians. You're right. You know, you can have the same sort of dish in a lot of different places. Like, it just popped into my mind. You have like a halibut dish. You can go to 5 different places and taste 5 different ways. It's like you said, it's the same idea, but it's very different. And I love that. I think next time I go to eat, I want to keep that parallel in my mind. Do you find that your researching and trends kind of start to change? Because I know at least in the liquor world, and we've had some people on that have like kind of curated liquors and come up with menus that, especially in Chicago, a big city, people's tastes change, the trends change. Do you find that in the cooking side of your work, that also is something where trends are changing and people are starting to look for different things, and some dishes become more popular than others at different times?
It always happens, and it's funny because I think of that as well, kind of the comedy analogy. You know, dishes can be like cover songs, right? Yeah. You hear one song and then you hear another band do it. If the band does the song the same way, it's not that fun. But when they interpret it totally differently, that's when it gets exciting. For me, that's I get inspired by other people's cooking a lot. That's why I like eating out a lot and seeing what's out there. When it comes to trends, I think that there's a big group of people that looks for trends and locks into trends, whether it's on the hospitality side or the guest side. Remember when cupcakes were all the rage, and then it was burgers were everywhere, and then it was matcha powder. Everything had, matcha in it. And now, it for me, it's more important to stay innovative and get excited from my passion and where my heart lies, and then let that come out to the guests that enjoy my food. I tend to I pay attention to the trends, obviously, but as far as following them, once you start to follow a trend, you're already behind.
Right.
So it's a matter of how do you create the new trends, and how do you find out how to just stay ahead and just stay exciting. I don't necessarily need to follow trends. I just want to keep innovating and keep people exciting in what I'm doing. Yeah. This whole 30 thing. That's more of a movement. I don't know that it's a trend. It's a way of eating that people are into, and it's clean eating, and I believe in it, right? I believe in balance, and I believe in eating healthy, and the older we get, the more important that is. Sure. And when I start wanting to cook for my demographic or cook for me, that's what I'm doing. I'm creating healthy food.
So when you're at home, very lucky family, by the way, because I'm sure the meals are always tasty.
Well, it's funny because if you ask my wife, people always say, "Oh, it must be great to be married to a chef." She'll be the first to shake her head no, because the amount of time that I am home, and when I am home, the amount of time I want to spend cooking are negative or slim, right? So typically when we have time together, we like to go out because we live in the best city in this country for food. And I always like to get inspired. We like to go out and eat and enjoy this city. So when we do have the opportunity, and granted, we love to cook together. She loves cooking. It's something we really enjoy. And I think for chefs, we like to go out and support each other as much as possible, because if you open my fridge right now, there's nothing in it. Actually, there's a bunch of Kitsch Fix meals.
That's awesome.
Because, like I was telling you, creating dishes for a company like Kitsch Fix is so exciting because it helps me be innovative. And it's a company that does home meal delivery for people that don't have time to cook, who don't like cooking or can't cook. And I'm in one of those with no time. So it's nice to, the worst thing is to try to come home, open up your fridge, and grab a beer and something fattening and not good for you at 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
So instead, it's grabbing a bottle of water and, a grilled chicken breast or a piece of salmon. Because I found that I was going out and just buying prepared foods or fruits or healthy things to keep in my fridge, so that when I am hungry, because I don't eat all day, I snack, I taste. I'm constantly tasting, so I never really get hungry. Although lately I've been changing that to where I do sit down and I eat lunch, and finding more of a balance of eating throughout a day.
Sure.
But having a refrigerator, it's kind of the whole 30 is set up so you're surrounded by good food all the time.
Right.
Even snacks. You can have some chocolate, but there's no refined sugar and so forth and so on. So eating healthy and like I said, coming up on 50, you start to change.
You
your
don't look 50, by the
mindset.
way.
Thank
John
you.
looks 48. John just
watch
turned 50.
yourself.
See, I told you I'll get him
yourself.
eventually.
You start to be a little more cognizant of how you're treating your body and what you're putting in it, what you're putting on it. And since high school or even college, I've been really cognizant of how I eat and my eating habits, but more so now that you can't just walk a mile and shed 300 calories anymore.
I can't either. I mean, the ongoing joke between my group of friends, I turned 35. The joke now is you're closer to 50 than you are 20. Start acting 50, not 20. And I can't either. And Kitchen Fix, for those of you watching, it's a meal prep site. You can actually order it, and they deliver to your home.
They deliver to your home.
Okay.
They deliver to a lot of hubs, gyms all around Chicagoland, all the way out a little past Naperville. But it is home meal preparation. It's not like the Blue Apron where you have to cook.
Yeah.
All you do is heat it up,
or
right?
warm it
Heat it
up.
up and eat it.
And for me, I've recently started to kind of play around with that. I was doing meal prep before, gained a ton of weight. Now I'm starting to kind of play around with that again because not just at night for me, I'm on the go, I'm between offices. I can just grab one, take it with me, and then I get to work. I'm not having to fish for fast food or find out what I'm going to Uber Eats to myself because typically it's not going to be quite as healthy. And even in a week of doing it, and I have a torn shoulder and I haven't been working out, but I've lost 3-4 pounds just by cleaning my diet up a little bit. And I think it's super important.
It is really important. And when it comes down to it, you don't need to really need to diet. You just need to watch what you're eating.
Right.
And it's at this age, it's really about how I feel internally and externally. I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis about 15 years ago, really, really severely. And I'm on this pretty aggressive treatment, and diet is huge. Anti-inflammation is really what the Whole 30 attitude is about, an anti-inflammatory diet. And not just for me, but for everyone, it just really helps. And when you cut things like alcohol out and when you cut things like complex carbohydrates, it really makes a difference to the way your body processes it. And that's what's exciting to me about developing these recipes is I can dig into my canon of recipes that I've, thousands of recipes and see how I can take them and tweak them to be a keto or a paleo or a Whole 30 option.
Well, that's the interesting thing because I find that it's got to be way more difficult to be able to get a satisfying meal in both portion size, but also healthiness and also make it taste well. I feel like that is such a, it's got to be a difficult art form almost. And it's very different than something that you would come to Theater on the Lake and have, or one of your restaurants and have. And you can have, I guess, more liberty in adding things that would typically make the person feel like, oh, this tastes great. Because you got to now be really creative with ingredients, correct? Yeah,
and that's for me as a chef, it's the best part of this opportunity is challenging myself to now, at Theater on the Lake, you have burgers, you have chicken fried chicken, you have my whiskey bacon and hummus and all these amazing things. I mean, come on, we live in Chicago. People love to eat, right? But when you talk about Kitchen Fix, it's okay, now I can't do that stuff anymore, and it's not a bad thing. How do I challenge myself to make, I'm working on these Asian braised short ribs now that I've done for so long, and instead of soy sauce, use coconut aminos and all these different ways. I'm working a lot with teff flour and almond flour. I just came up with this muffin with tahini, teff flour, almond flour, and black sesame seeds and bananas, and it's delicious. If I gave it to you, you'd never know anything different. But how do you use something like a date syrup as a sweetener versus brown sugar?
It's crazy. And
all these different ways of making yogurt with cashew milk and taking cashews and making a cashew milk. And it's really super exciting. And at this point in my career, it's a great challenge to try to cook this way.
And I imagine that you just touched on that. I was going to ask, what keeps you motivated to come up with different options and stuff? Because you've been doing it for a long time, basically your whole life since you were a kid. This has been a passion of yours. But I find that with everything I do, if I don't have kind of the next, let me get myself excited about it, passion still dwindles a little bit. It seems like you are constantly trying to evolve the next thing.
And it's what I love about what I do is because I'm constantly chasing what's next and how to make it better. My father died at 51 in 1992 of a disease called scleroderma. And he had scleroderma is an autoimmune disease defined as hard skin, and he had it in his lung. And so over the course of a year, his lung shrank. I came up 11 years ago with a fundraiser called Cooking Up a Cure, where I get all the best chefs, all the best breweries and distilleries together to raise money. We just had our 11th Cooking Up a Cure last Thursday, and the prior Monday, the FDA approved the first drug to treat fibrosis in the lung caused by scleroderma. So in 27 years since my father died, we're finally seeing FDA approval of a drug. My point is that, at 51, I was 21. I lost my father at a young age. Now I'm coming up on that age. My kids are 14, 17, 19. So now I'm starting to think I want to be around for as long as I can and enjoy my time with my kids. Therefore, I want to be healthy. I've been going to the gym on a regular basis, and this lifestyle fits me well. It feels good, and I know that when I eat well, everything feels better. So being able to cook that way helps me breathe that energy to other people. You know what I mean?
Well, what better motivation than that? And congratulations on the charity being in its 11th year.
Thank
That's
you.
incredible. And nothing more motivating than family, obviously.
Yeah.
And you look great. I mean, I always say this, and I have a couple buddies of mine that work in restaurants, and I have a friend of mine that's a chef. But having a sample food all day can really take a crazy impact on your diet, and then your hours. I mean, the amount of hours you guys have to work leads you to not being able to have kind of a consistent grasp on your health. So kudos to you for being able to.
It's a lot of
keep that in
work,
check.
and there's more and more chefs these days that you see going sober, getting healthy, and it's because we've spent the past 20 years of our lives working 16-hour days on our feet, not eating, drinking. I mean, it's a toxic environment, right? Yeah. And you're constantly seeing people in our business commit suicide and depression and all this stuff, and it's taken its toll. It really has, and I think that it's a shame to see some of these people go, but it's putting a spotlight on how toxic this business is. So having the ability to step away from that environment and put myself into a healthier environment, both figuratively and eating and my environment, makes a lot of sense. When I was 26, 27, it was a different story. But if I have the opportunity to take a younger version of me and say, this is what it's like, this is what your body is going to feel like, because like you, I had my rib labrum and rotator cuff, my body's starting to break down. Yeah. I feel it all the time. And if a day goes by where I don't complain to my wife about my body, it's a success. I have yet to have that happen, but I work very hard on just staying in shape and staying. Someone asked me yesterday how I'm doing. I said, well, I'm vertical. Yeah. And every day I'm vertical is a success.
Do you work out in the mornings, or are you kind of like an evening?
I used to work out every morning, but now I'm flip-flopping since I'm up so early and starting my day at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I'm turning into an evening workout person, which has never been good for me, because then I get my energy is up, and then it's a matter of how do you come down, and I don't turn to alcohol anymore to settle down. Yeah. So I still have a cigar.
That my problem is I'm kind of an evening. I know John's a morning workout guy. He's always very early, and I'm an evening guy, and it always gives me that second wind at 9 or 10 o'clock. I'm like, I'm
it's
not going to go
tough.
to sleep till 2 in the morning.
Exactly. And then when you have to wake up early, then it starts to create this pattern. So it's about just getting your body into that rhythm, I think. And if I can get to the gym at 6 o'clock, it's still early enough that I can kind of come down, unwind a little bit.
So prior to Theater on the Lake, what were you doing in the restaurant world?
I was over at Fountainhead and Fountainhead Market, the bar on Buena. I was there from 2013 to 2016. And before that, I had my own place called City Provisions, which is kind of where the Bloody Mary was born, or caught fire, really. And City Provisions, it's interesting. It's been closed for over 6 years, and I can't tell you there's a week that goes by that someone doesn't come up to me and talk about it. And it's so great to see all of the people that this kind of graduating class of entrepreneurs that got together when City Provision launched, and CP served as this kind of launching pad and spotlight for all these people, and seeing their success is kind of the whole purpose of what it was.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And tell me about this Bloody Mary mix, because I think we can. What are we due for it? You think, John?
Yeah,
give it a shot. Tell us how it came about, and what led you to go from obviously being very good at Bloody Marys to actually having a business selling Bloody Marys.
I love brunch.
Okay.
I love making
huge in the city now, by the way.
Huge.
It's a big thing.
Huge. I mean, it's crazy. I've always loved brunch. I've loved to eat brunch. I've always loved to cook brunch. I never liked waking up to cook brunch.
Right.
But I do it because I love you, everybody. The Bloody Mary was originally made at City Provisions with real tomatoes and real horseradish and all real ingredients. And when I opened City Provisions, North Shore Distillery was just starting out, and they had an aquavit, which I had never heard of before. And it's this Scandinavian spirit that's distilled from caraway. So I drank a little bit of it. I made a Bloody Mary with it. We loved it. And the name Cleetus came from my brother-in-law, who I don't know, when I was in college, I made salsa and brought it to a family gig, and he said I should call it Cleetus. So the name kind of stuck. Named my salsa Cleetus, and when the Bloody Mary became popular, I decided to call it a Cleetus Bloody Mary because it had a little kick to it. And then, I was going off of Rick Bayless's Frontera model, and then Bill Kim from Urban Belly started his line of sauces. So I thought, maybe I should look into getting this packaged. And it took a good 7-8 years for me to find a right co-packer. It turned out that we're taking fresh tomatoes, making juice from the tomatoes, real celery, real horseradish. So a lot of these Bloody Mary mixes you'll buy, and then you'll add this and that to it. You'll add horseradish. You'll add hot sauce. You'll add Worcestershire sauce. But why?
This has all.
This has everything in it. All you need to do is add booze, or not. It's just good and healthy without it.
Well, I think that's the big thing when you start to package something in mass quantities. What you can probably make for me in your kitchen, having that sort of taste level transfer on to something that's bottled and someone can take home, there's difficulty in that, real challenge in that.
There is, and it gets back to your talking about taking someone's recipe and making it home. I can give you my recipe. It's not going to taste like this. Right? The beauty, and you can see the horseradish floating in the bottle.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, for those of you watching, John might be too far away from this to be able to show it to you, but I mean, you can see it.
And people comment on it all the time. We're in about 26 Bennies across Chicagoland. We're in Rogers Park Provisions and Bottles and Cans. We're the House Bloody Mary at Fishman's. We're the House Bloody Mary at All Rocks. So I was doing a tasting in Bennies, and this sits at $10 on the shelf. Our Zing Zang, I'll just say, sits at $5. And a guy comes up to me and says, well, why is yours twice as much? And on the shelf next to Zing Zang is horseradish, hot sauce, Worcestershire sauce, lime juice. I said,
you're $20.
You're going to have to buy all these ingredients to make up what mine is. So,
yeah. And so where can you buy it other than Benny's? I see on the actual bottle itself, your website, craftedbycleetus.com.
You can go to craftedbycleetus.com. You can buy it. We ship all over the country. We also do our Bloody Mary popcorn, which I'm sorry I don't have for you here.
No problem.
So, yeah, those products are available through our website. You can get them. They make great gifts.
And it's a great bottle. I'm always critical about like the obviously the display version of something because you want to catch people's attention. But it's a really cool bottle.
Thank you. Brett Nyman did such a good job on my artwork. I'm really excited. I think it does stand out on shelves. And it's just, I'm really proud of the Bloody Mary mix. And the popcorn, which I just released, is starting to gain traction too, and people are really digging it. Yeah.
The problem with popcorn is, and I get Smart Pop sometimes at home, and it's not Smart Pop when I don't have a bag and I have like 15 bags. It's no longer smart for me anymore.
Right. It's
That's my problem with popcorn.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I make them they're 4-ounce bags, and you're going to eat the whole bag.
Not enough for me.
No,
sure.
right. But you can get more than one.
Right.
But you should eat a whole bag. You can't open one up and eat a little bit. And I've had people say, "Oh, I opened it in the car and it was gone before I got home." Well, that's the goal. You know, you just need a little something to drink.
Perfect for the guy who's got the business of popcorn.
Well, isn't that the point?
Well, and this is your Bloody Mary mix is like a reigning, defending, multiple-time champion in the city for Bloody Marys.
It is. It's a Chicago Magazine, Chicagoist, Time Out Chicago, all rated it the best non-vodka Bloody Mary. And I say best non-vodka Bloody Mary because I've always made it with the aquavit.
Yeah.
At Theater on the Lake, you can get it with vodka. You can get it with gin. It's really good with mezcal.
Okay.
Or a real smoky scotch.
Okay.
Some people have said it tasted like bacon just because that smoke reminds them of bacon, much like horseradish and tomato reminds people of shrimp cocktail.
Right.
So people have said, "Oh, there's shrimp in here," and there's no shrimp in here. It's just your brain saying
tricking
tastes
you
like cocktail sauce. Yeah, it's good with bourbon.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna try it with some vodka. You are the master at this, so I'm not gonna butcher how much vodka I should be putting into my Bloody Mary mix. You want to do it so I don't goof it up?
There's no goofing.
Okay.
There really, if it were a 50-50 ratio, you wouldn't be wrong.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to go 50-50 on
I'd
this
go
one.
1 to 3.
1 to 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
People always ask how much should I do, and I don't know. Do you drink your Bloody Marys in a rocks glass or a pint glass? Because
I drink almost everything in a pint.
Right, exactly, as you should, or a British pint glass, or a ball jar, like a 32-ounce ball jar.
John, if you want one, I'm going to need another mug from you.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you want to taste some too.
I do indeed.
And the good news is for food service, we do them in gallons.
Okay.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I have a friend who buys it by the gallon.
I love that we're drinking these out of WheelHouse mugs.
Of course. I didn't bring the Crafted by Cleetus mugs. That's why.
Are there mugs? Can you buy them on craftedbycleetus.com?
No, they're not. They're not yet. But you know.
Well, for those of you listening, you can buy WheelHouse mugs, I think, at some point, and then you can drink your Bloody Marys on.
That's true.
I may have poured way too much vodka in mine.
No such thing.
I might lighten yours up a little bit. Want to try it?
The Bloody Mary mix I have cooked brisket with. I do a Bloody Mary ketchup over at Theater on the Lake for the brunch burger. It's versatile.
John, I'm going to give you the one with more vodka in it.
Oh, great! Thank you so much. I will. When I get pulled over, I'll have
just have them call me.
Tell him you know an attorney.
Yeah.
one that does one that does real estate law, and not crim law. You want some too? Obviously.
I'm good.
You sure? Oh, we would have had enough cups then. Well,
plenty of cups. One for Elijah.
Let's give John this one.
It's an Elijah joke.
Your drive is also far shorter than mine, by the way.
Yeah, so the shorter it is, the more. I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
Cheers, John.
All right, cheers, John.
Give me 1 second.
I'll send over some popcorn for your next guest.
Wow, that's really good.
So what we got going on here.
It's really good. It does have it has a kick to it, which I love.
Not too much though, because right? And that kick comes from the fresh horseradish. I never want to make anything too spicy.
Yeah.
Because you can always make it spicier.
Right.
You want to put more hot sauce in it, you can. But the goal in my cooking in general is balance. I same with beers. When I do beers, I don't like to do anything super aggressively hoppy or, I want to try to appeal as many people as possible. Right.
And you can definitely tell it's got that kind of fresh squeezed tomato taste to it, whereas normally you get the it's almost like a preservative type tomato. It's really good.
Fresh is the one word that I hear most often when people want to talk about the mix.
Yeah, it's a very fresh tasting, like somebody squeezed it out of fresh fruit instead of
This
it being
is, yeah.
Tomato is a
doesn't-
fruit.
Yep.
It doesn't, or vegetables. It doesn't. It doesn't taste like it's a mix.
It does not at all. You can actually taste each individual ingredient. I
Yeah,
can
it's
taste the
really
cel-
good. And I'm not
I
just
can
saying
taste the
that.
celery,
I'm not just
the
saying that
horseradish.
because I'm not even the biggest Bloody Mary guy.
Not a big one, no.
But this is really, really good. Like I would drink this, and I'm not like the type of guy that's like, oh my god, I get me a
No.
Bloody Mary.
I've heard that a lot too. And the biggest compliment that I can get, or I think that any chef can get, is, oh, I don't eat Brussels sprouts, but I like them when you make them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I don't eat tomatoes, but I like your Bloody Mary mix. I don't eat beets, but that beet salad was great. I love hearing that. And for me, that's the biggest challenge, is getting people who don't normally eat fill in the blank to enjoy it.
I mean it. And I like my best friend John. Shout out to John. He was at my birthday. He's
Shout
a Bloody
out,
Mary
John.
guy, and he typically has a Bloody Mary mix, and he has it at his place. And I don't like his Bloody Mary
Because
mix.
it's tomato juice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is really good. And I mean that not just because you're on air. This I would drink.
This is
His
really,
mix, I
yeah.
probably wouldn't.
The horseradish, it's really, I love it. That is, however you're doing it.
I'm guessing
really
the popcorn's really good too.
Oh,
Popcorn's so
man.
good.
And I'm the opposite on popcorn. I'm a huge popcorn fanatic.
All right,
So
get you
I
some
gotta
popcorn.
get some. I'm gonna order some. So can find it on Benny's, can find it on your website, and then which restaurants again?
Oh my goodness! You
A couple.
all the rocks.
Okay.
Fishman's Public House. You could find it at Rogers Park Provisions, bottles and cans,
Nice.
all over the city.
Well, Maggie and I hang out at Rocks. Up by Wrigley. Yeah,
good.
on Broadway. So
Yeah, well, if you've had a
There's
Bloody
some
Mary there,
restaurants.
that's Cleetus Heatus.
she will really like this
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah.
Do you like traveling for food? Like, is there different parts of the world that you find totally fascinating when it comes to food and kind of cuisine?
When I travel, which is not often, I look for the food. And I haven't done a lot of worldly travel. I spent some time cooking in Normandy in France. I've been to Brussels. I've been to Amsterdam. Otherwise, I've been almost everywhere in our country. And when I travel, I look for food.
Yeah.
I mean, when my wife and I travel, it's planned by restaurants, and
That's
and
awesome.
that's pretty much how it goes. Everything else is kind of floats into the itinerary. But when we were in Minneapolis, I think we were there for 30 hours and ate at I think 7, 8, 9 restaurants. But that's what
Crazy how thin you are for how much you dabble into.
But
eating
it's
food
not
out.
like we're being gluttonous. It's we go somewhere, we have a dish. We go somewhere else, have a dish. We get the ambiance. We see what the experience is like, and we taste one or two things. That's what enjoying a city is like for us. You know what I mean? That's what we do when we're here in Chicago.
Sure.
We don't go out to one restaurant. We go to 3 or 4 in the night, you know, because why not?
Right.
And we'll start early and end early, but we will hit a place. Typically, you can go to one neighborhood and hit many places. That's the beauty of Chicago, is that you go to Logan Square, you can go to Lula, you can go to Giant, you can go to all these different places, and experiment with everything that's going on there. And you can have 5 different cuisines in a matter of a few hours in 2 blocks.
That's the cool thing about Chicago. And obviously, all three of us are a little bit biased on Chicago. For those of you listening that aren't Chicago-based, visit Chicago. There's a melting pot of so many different cultures and cuisines and foods, and even just like the art and the culture of different neighborhoods. There's so much of it, and there's other cities in Chicago in the U.S. that have that. But a lot of times you'll go to like New Orleans, and you got kind of that culture and that sort of food is the over.
Highly French influence.
Yeah. That's kind of like the big food you're going to have there, and you might go someplace that's south, and you might have a completely different twist, but Chicago just has such a crazy melting pot of so many different options. And you have obviously traveled for food more than I have. You truly mean that when you say it probably is the best when it comes to the full-on overall cuisine?
Oh, my goodness. It's somewhat not fair to come from Chicago, to be a chef in this city and then go to any other city. It's almost like, yeah, well, it's fine. And, you know, our kids are think that that's normal.
Yeah.
You go somewhere else and it's like, well, that's not as good. But Chicago, I mean, from a hibarito to a 18-course dinner and everything in between, barbecue, Thai, everything. There's everything here, and you can get awesome of all of it anywhere.
So I went to Italy last year, and my cousin lives in Italy, and he's half Italian, and I went with my dad, and we got there, and I was expecting to be blown away. I said, okay, I'm going to Italy. And it's the first thing I told John, I think, when we were on the phone when I was in Italy. He said, how's the food? And I said, it's good, but I'm so spoiled being from Chicago that I just wasn't blown away. And my cousin's looking at me. He's like,
no way.
How did you like that? And I'm like, it wasn't bad, but I've had as good, if not better, Italian food in Chicago.
Sweet.
And he's like, F off. Like, there's no way. I'm like, I'm telling you, I love the experience of dining there.
Sure.
It was almost the cultural dining there of it was a 2-3 hour dinner and everybody was so friendly, and the conversation you would have with your wait staff and how somebody who owned it would come out and just stand there and talk to you, even in a small diner. That was a really cool experience. It was different than we have here, I think. But the food was better, in my opinion. And he was just like constantly like, you're being biased, F off. He's like, how about this pizza? And I'm like, I'm telling you, we got really good pizza in Chicago.
Yeah.
So
were you at a place where you got all you can eat breadsticks?
no,
Oh,
because we have one of those.
That's an Italian thing, right?
We have one of those. I'll tell you though, you know what was fascinating about Italians? You walk around and everybody is, guys and girls, incredibly thin. But they're eating really heavy pasta dishes. I'm like,
same in Paris.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Everybody's eating all this bread and cheese and heavy butter, and everybody's thin.
I gained like 10 pounds in a week there, and I'm like, how the hell are you guys not all obese? How are we obese in the U.S. and none of you guys
that's
are?
a whole other conversation.
Topic. But
hashtag Perkins.
But I was very much
Sorry.
No, I agree. I was very spoiled from Chicago, and that was the first time I really experienced Chicago's level of spoiling us when I was at a place in the world where everyone's like, you're going there and the food's unbelievable. And I'm like, and this is going to sound bad, but if I came from Bumble F someplace that had no like big cuisine, I'd be like, oh my God, this food's amazing. And I just told him, I go, I live in Chicago, man.
The culinary scene in this city is unlike anything I've ever seen. And a lot of it has to do with the collaborative efforts of all the chefs in the city. It's not a competitive landscape. Chefs in this city work together to make this city great. We work together on sourcing. We work together on ideas. We collaborate and do things together. And there's nothing like the culture of chefs in Chicago. And it's one of the things I love about this job is the amount of people that we are supported by each other is tremendous. And, at Cooking Up a Cure, I was sitting with Pat Sheeran. We were getting our picture drawn from a caricature guy. And he said, who's your favorite celebrity chef? We both kind of laughed because I've never seen those two words really go together as much as everybody else wants them to. I think that at the heart of it, we do what we do because we love to do it. I think everybody else wants to put the celebrity in it. We're just making food at the end of the day, and I tell this to my staff all the time. We're just making food. We do it the best that we can, and we love to do it. But what's the celebrity in it unless you're trying to be on TV? And if you're trying to be on TV, where is it in your heart?
Sure.
And people do things for different reasons. And I think that there's a place and a time for all of it. It's just that you can be a chef who became a celebrity by doing what you do. Look at Rick Bayless and everything that he's done with his foundation and his Frontera Foods and all the stuff he did with Iron Chef. He became a celebrity by doing it. It's not like he was a 15-year-old kid, went on TV and became a celebrity. Now he's a chef. There's a difference between that, and there's a fine line of talent and creativity. And not to take anything away, but I've never seen celebrities and chefs
Same capacity, kind of.
Yeah, people want to say you're a celebrity because you're well known.
Right.
Outside of the city, most of us, nobody will know who we are. It's fine being of that status here in the city, because it's always nice when someone recognizes you, or they've been to your restaurant and they thank you, or they say they've had a dish, or they said they love a beer you've done. It's awesome, and that feels really good. That's the reward that we get, right? To put someone to put a dish in front of someone and watch the reaction that you get from them. I always talk about that scene in Ratatouille where the critic ate the ratatouille for the first time. He drops his fork and is immediately transported back to when he was a kid, and how that kind of, Ina Pinckney calls it a taste memory. Right, you have these taste memories. So as a chef, to elicit those taste memories, that's the biggest give back. That's the biggest reward, when you can kind of get those taste memories from people. Oh my God, my mother or my grandmother used to do this, or something like that is pretty awesome.
I think you're being very humble in a sense, because I look at it like, you're, for a lot of people, it might not be every single person that comes to eat every single day, but I'm sure throughout your career, there's been so many times where your experience through food has been an experience where somebody may have been on a first date that ended up getting married. It might be just a moment with a family member, and that experience is something they've probably taken with them for the rest of their lives and will keep, which you guys are, I think at the core of it, yeah, you're creating food, and it's great that that's what you broke it down to, because it shows how humble you are. But I really think the dining experience, I'm sure this is part of your passion of constantly curating and changing things, and that probably has an effect on you. You've probably touched and impacted so many experiences for people. And you touched on something that I was going to touch on. I think you had alluded to it earlier, that giver's gain mindset of you guys in the industry constantly working with one another seems like it might be unique to Chicago, but it's cool and refreshing to see, because I think entrepreneurs in Chicago in general, at least John and I have experienced this in the last year and a half, have been so giving of their time and effort, and almost been open books to giving other entrepreneurs advice, saying, hey, I'll sit down with somebody. We've had entrepreneurs on here who have told us, when we first started, we didn't know what to do, and we just reached out to 5 people in Chicago, and all 5 sat down with us. And I don't know if that's a Chicago thing, because I've only had businesses in Chicago, right, but I'm glad to see that it has also happened in your industry as well.
Well, look, high tides raise all boats. You know what I mean? Right. And I think the energy you put out is what you get back. And when it comes down to it, if you're able to give someone that energy and it comes back to you, I mean, everybody wins. Yeah, and in our industry, where we're in the hospitality industry, we want to make people happy. So the happier we are, the happier they are. And when guests see people working together, whether it's servers and cooks or chefs and other chefs, it draws this excitement to Chicago and to the culinary scene here in the city that makes it stand out. It's a city where chefs want to work together to make this big ball of energy in the middle of our country something that people want to be a part of. Yeah. And that is felt when you come to Chicago. It's not a competitive environment where chefs are shit talking other people and they want to be better than the other. It's far from it. The better we can help each other be, the better we're going to become.
I love that mindset.
And it's a great mindset, and I think that there's this entire group of us in the culinary scene that feel that way, and it's why the scene is the way it is.
I love that mindset, and I wonder sometimes if that's uniquely Chicago. I'm sure there's other places that have it, but I see it in the handful of industries I'm involved in. That whole kind of giver's gain mindset. I was just talking to an agent about the book The Go-Giver, which is a book I recently read, and it's one of my favorites. And it talks about giving, and then through giving you shall receive back, but not expecting to receive back when you're giving. And I just feel like some of that has to be uniquely Chicago.
I think it is. And coming from the East Coast, I remember the first week I was in Chicago. I was walking down the street, and I said hello to someone, and they said hello back. And that was somewhat of a tell to me of what this Midwest culture is like and how different it is. And granted, 95 was a different world that we all lived in.
Sure.
But I think there's a certain mentality of being genuine as a person that comes along with being from Chicago. And I think that ultimately Chicagoans are so very proud of Chicago and want Chicago to be this kind of hug around everyone. And the amount of diversity that we have, it's kind of this even flowing bloodline that goes through everybody. When everyone is putting it out, it's all coming back. And that's something that has never changed since I've been here. And I see it in different professions as well. And I never doubt, I kind of assume that it's Chicago, and whether or not it's in other cities somewhat doesn't matter.
Right.
Because it
We
makes
have it.
Chicago proud. And it makes me a proud Chicagoan. And it makes me want to say this is the best city in the country.
I agree.
And I'm not a snob about it. There are certain cities that I'm not interested in going to because I know the attitude. But, when it comes down to it, it's like hip hop. Chicago is the best. And if I got to represent, I'm going to represent. But, it's a very collaborative city, which I really like.
Yeah, I agree tenfold. And I've been to some big cities that feel like they're too big, too disconnected, and it just feels like a aggressive nature. Whereas in Chicago, like we said, it's a very collaborative city. If you want a cuisine, if like you need a cheat meal, like for me, people joke like if you want to lose weight, Mo, stop eating tacos. You're an idiot. You eat too many tacos. Do you have one? Is there like is pizza the thing? Is it tacos? Is it pasta?
I love wings.
Okay.
It's kind of my guilty pleasure. I love tacos. If I want to get real bad and hurt
Mess the
myself,
diet up.
well, not just mess up my diet, but not be good on my system.
that's right.
Donuts.
Donuts.
Yeah, but it's rare that I'll have a donut these days. But it's not rare that I'll go and cheat on some wings.
So wings don't upset the diet?
No, they
you?
do.
They do.
They do. I'm not saying they don't.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
That's the truth.
it's somehow easier for me to justify going out for wings, and it's something I'll either do alone or do with my son. And just
Do you like them super spicy?
I don't like anything super spicy.
Okay.
I like to feel my face.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those pepperheads that goes and tries to get the scorpion ghost peppers and because it burns twice.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I was gonna say I made one mistake one time. I've made two mistakes. One I got tricked into, but one of them was I went to Jake Melnick's and they have like that spicy wing challenge.
Yeah.
And if you win, like they take a photo of you and they put it on the website. Nobody ever sees it, but I did it, and I remember about 3 bites in, my nose and my eyes were numb, and I was just like, okay, it can't get any worse than this.
Oh, yeah.
And I just have to finish it. So I ate as fast as I could and finished it. I was like, a couple hours later, I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done.
So I worked for Jimmy Banos for a while, and he had this thing called the Hot as a Mother dinner, where he would kind of let me cook for these dinners where it would be a 7 to 8 course dinner of the spiciest food you've ever had, and it would go spicier and spicier and spicier. And throughout the prep for the meal, I'd be tasting and stuff, and we would tell people, we would write them letters and say, before you come to dinner, put your toilet paper in the freezer.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Because I don't know.
Trying to
I don't
mess
know
them
how
up.
these people would do it. They would eat 7, 8 courses. The first thing it was just way too spicy for me, and by the end of the day, my stomach would be so upset because I'd be tasting throughout the day, and it's just. So to answer your question, no, I don't love super spicy. I love really flavorful. I can handle a little heat, and I enjoy a little heat. I'm really big on Landbirds over in Logan Square.
Okay.
Their wings
Never
are
tried
great. They're the Korean lollipop style, but
Okay.
their sauce is so very good. They have a real spicy one. I haven't really gone for that spicy, but super flavorful. Even with tacos, I like medium or hot sauce. I don't like super crazy hot stuff. So.
Yeah. There's a chip my sister made me try one time. They brought it over for Thanksgiving one year, and it was one of those like chips that you have to have it, and then they film how long it takes you to before you have ice cream. And I should have known better because she brought a tub of ice cream and put it in front of me. And it's a chip that's like the size of a Dorito chip.
Like a potato chip?
No, like a Dorito chip. It was like literally shaped like a Dorito. And I forget what it's called. And she just basically said, you have to have this chip, and we're going to watch to see how long it takes you to have
and you
the
just
ice cream.
you buy it by the
the one single chip.
In a bag?
It comes in like a container. So I said, I like spicy stuff. It's a chip. So I put it in my mouth. I chew. I go, this isn't so bad. And my sister and her wife are watching me, and they start to laugh. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And I went for the ice cream. They go, you going for it already? And I was like, oh, and I just sat there for a couple seconds. And it was, I don't know what the heck kind of pepper it was. And then if you check on YouTube, there's a bunch of clips of people and like athletes trying them and then just losing their minds.
Well, here
I don't know what it was.
Public service announcement: be sure to wash your hands before,
before
you go to the
wipe your
bathroom.
eyes. Yeah, that too. Yeah, that might almost be worse than the eyes.
Not might.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
is. It's kind of like you make that mistake once. Too.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that in the moment, but I did wash my hands right after, thinking I would rub my eyes because I have contacts.
Sure.
I said, tonight before I go to sleep, I'm going to take my contacts out, and then I'm a dead man. I'm going to end up rushing to the hospital.
my
But that
goodness.
was really bad.
Yeah.
One thing, and I know John has some questions he
Sure.
wants to ask, but one thing we ask every time somebody comes on is any advice for anybody, and you're a multiple-time entrepreneur, but any advice for somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur, doesn't have to be in your line of work, but just in general.
I just think if I can give anybody advice, would just be to do what feels right and go for it. And if people tell you no, go for it. Because I think it was Wayne Gretzky who said, you miss all the shots you don't take. It's really true. I remember when I came up with the idea for City Provisions, and I went over, Zingerman's? Over in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Zingerman's is a deli that started as a deli in Ann Arbor and turned into this multi-unit, crazy, insane business. And they teach management. So I had gone to take one of their courses, and I remember I had my website, I had my business model, and I had a space for City Provisions. And I was sitting in one of those massage chairs where you sit over, hunched over, like on a lunch break.
Yeah, like 15-minute.
I was sitting next to Ari Weinswig, who's the CEO of Zingerman's. And I was telling him about my idea for City Provisions. And I said, I'm just going to get a few sandwich counters and sandwich refrigerators and throw them in there, and I'll do it. And he said, you know what? You get one chance to do it. You get one chance to open. So just do it right. And I said, okay. And my version of doing right was going all out and really doing it well. And I never look back and think that I should have done it differently. There are a lot of things that I've done in my career that have been a little too far ahead of where they would go, but that has not stopped me. It's I do what I feel is right, and if the world isn't ready for it, then so be it. Because if it inspires someone else to do something, then great. If I could say that I've just about everything in my career, I'm pretty damn happy about.
Fantastic.
I'm pretty excited. So
that's great advice.
My advice is just go for it. And don't be afraid.
Great advice. John, you got some questions?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, actually, so my nephew is a chef. He went to Kendall right here in Chicago. And so picking up on the question that Mo just asked as far as advice for entrepreneurs, can we dial it in a little bit as far as for young chefs? I know that Nick, my nephew, introduced me to this term called staging. And I'd never heard of this. I don't know if you know what that is.
No, I have no idea.
And please correct me if I'm stating this wrong, but staging basically a young chef or any age chef who wants to go to work at a restaurant will go and work in their kitchen for 2 or 3 nights for free to more or less show the executive chef what he or she is made of.
Correct.
And then if they are doing well and so on, they will be offered a job, some part-time, some full-time, however it works. But I had never heard it's like an audition.
It's like an apprenticeship. Unpaid.
Exactly.
But non-paid.
It could be 1 day. It could be 1 year. It's up to the stage to determine that.
Right.
But it is like a moonlight, an audition essentially. Yeah. It's to show me as the chef what you're made of, and it's for for you to see if you want to work for me.
True.
It goes both ways. But the most important thing for a stage, kids, is show up. That's the first step. Because it's we'll schedule a stage and they just don't show up. So that's show up for your stage and be prepared to cut veggies, wash dishes, do whatever you need to do. So
yeah, and he told me a variety of. He's been doing it now for a while, and he's gainfully employed and all that. But some of the auditions, the staging events, or whatever. How do you phrase that?
I think audition probably is a really good.
Stage.
Yeah.
That's what we call it, a stage.
Okay.
And that's exactly how it goes. Before I hire someone, I want a 1 or 2 day stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Make sure we're making the right
Good
decision.
fit.
Yeah,
Good deal.
100%.
Okay.
Because the kitchen's a team.
Right.
And you need to fit into the team. And it's not up to me. It's up to the team. I'm going to turn to the team and say, does this person belong, yes or no? Because if they don't want them, they're not,
Yeah.
I imagine the synergy in that sort of environment has to almost be perfection, especially because it's at such a high stress level, and especially where you are now and where you've been in the past, you have a lot of people coming through, and you got to make sure that it's the synergy works.
Yeah, and consistency is the hardest thing about this job. You have 14 people, 20 people, 30 people on your staff, and they're all making the same dish. So how do I teach all these people in my kitchen to execute it the same way every single time? Because you as a guest don't care that I made the burger, or this person made the burger, or that person made the burger. It's got to be the same thing every time. It can't be, same thing behind the bar. Cocktails are the same thing. Right in the beverage program over at Theater on the Lake, I was like, you have to measure your pours and do the same thing every time, because if you have an old fashioned, and then I'm your bartender, and then I walk away, and the next bartender comes in, you're another old fashioned, it better be the same one.
Yeah.
It can't taste differently because it's someone else making it. Consistency is very hard in this business.
And I never thought about that. You're right. When you go to a place that you love to go, you expect that taste to be the same consistently every time you're there.
All the time. Mm-hmm. Same with the service.
Yeah, and the drinks. I never thought about that. It's, every time I go someplace to have something, like if I have a mule or something, I have mules from time to time. If it tastes completely different at the same place from mule to mule, you're like, what the heck? Now, if I go to 2 different places and the mules are different, totally different thing.
It comes down to what we were talking about earlier with interpretation.
Right.
Maybe who knows? Maybe
Got a
they
little
use a
twist on
different ginger beer.
Right. Interesting. Never thought about that. John, I'll throw it back to you.
Couple more, real quick.
Bring it.
So, the 3 of us in this room, we eye what we eat pretty well. But you had made mention about complex carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping just real quick you could explain, I try and stay away from bread and pasta and all that. What exactly is a complex carbohydrate opposed to...
Simple carbs?
Yeah.
Processed foods. Complex carbohydrates are found in a lot of processed foods. Simple sugar, simple carbohydrates in honey. In grains have those complex carbs. Your colon it takes a lot more work to break those things down. Mm-hmm. Simple carbohydrates absorb into your system a lot easier. That's why a lot of this healthy cooking is anti-inflammatory, because the more processed foods and complex carbohydrates cause inflammation in your gut. So that's kind of what it comes down to. There's a book called Breaking the Vicious Cycle by Elaine Gutschall that talks about utilizing simple carbohydrates in your diet and reducing the dairy, things like that, to have a healthier gut. Making your own yogurt, which is crazy.
All right. And then one more. We talked about where to get the Bloody Mary mix, and I know we touched on the popcorn, and we can do that via the website. But
Yes.
is the popcorn available at Binny's or retail anywhere?
Popcorn is available at bottles and cans right now in Rogers Park Provisions. It is being carried at the Double, the bar over on Central Park and Fullerton. But it's mainly available through the website right now.
Crafted by Cleetus.com.
Very nice.
Cleetus.com.
Crafted with a C, Cleetus with a C. For those
Buy
of you
with a B.
watching. And you, I'm guessing your handle's at Cleet Tweet?
Cleet Tweet.
Try to say that 4 times real fast.
You can say it as many times as you need.
You know what else I didn't touch on when I was actually looking at the bottle is the nutrition facts of this, because the servings are big. It's 4 ounces. You only have 20 calories in here, no fat at all.
Low
and
sodium.
Low
too.
sodium.
Yeah.
Very low sodium.
A lot of people have commented on how low the sodium is in my Bloody Mary mix compared to our competitors.
Low sugars, virtually no carbs. It's a really healthy Bloody Mary mix.
It's just veggies in a bottle,
Right.
really, with a little bit of Worcester sauce and a little bit of hot sauce. It's almost like I will say V8.
Yeah.
Can I say that?
Way better.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
but
Way better.
You know how V8 at least they used to market it as
health.
a healthy
Yeah,
thing, and
it's
I
commercials.
think it's probably changed a little bit since then. But they used to say it's just vegetables in a can or a bottle. That's what my Bloody Mary mix is. I've had people that are underage just drink it as
Like
a
V8?
juice.
Yeah. You know,
Which is
so you
fine.
can
Get your-
you can continue to diet and drink if you're just having vodka and his Bloody Mary mix, because
Yeah.
this is not there's nothing fattening or bad for you in here. It's just vegetables, like you
That's
said.
right, and you can have it without alcohol and enjoy it and have it as a healthy
Yeah.
beverage, breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
Yeah, if you are a juice person, this is, and I can taste a hint of vodka because I was pour
You poured it heavy.
I was pour heavy, but it's a good tasting juice.
You know, October is Bloody Mary Juice Diet Month.
Is it?
I just declared that. So
Yeah, just made
Deal.
that
you can,
breaking
you can
news.
go on a Cleetus Heatus juice diet
diet?
and just drink Bloody Mary mix. You can get it by the gallon, and I will ship it to you. So.
Well, John and I have gone on a couple juice diets. I think this one makes some sense.
This-
Aren't they
Yes,
horrible?
yes.
I've done it.
Day
My
3
wife
is
and I
like
did
2
it.
and 3.
It's like, oh my goodness, it's really, you want to kill somebody. It makes you, I can't even tell you. It's like after I have my procedure for ulcerative colitis, I just want a hamburger,
Yeah.
because you haven't eaten for 3 days. At the end of a juice cleanse, it's almost like you just want to beat up your body and be like, give me everything fried and chicken and donuts and all of it.
Well, you can carry this on to a weekend, because you can just, if you want to go out and party with your friends, just have this as your drinking mix too. Your juice diet can continue
Exactly.
That's
itself all
right.
the time.
Yeah, you're
It's
in.
a healthy way to drink.
Yeah. Well, I agree on the juice diets. I mean, I've done tons of them, and I always think day 1 for me is kind of stinks because you're just not eating anything.
What's
Day
the
2,
longest juice you've done?
5. I did a 5, but I cheated on the 5th day. I won't go past 3 anymore because I'll go crazy. People in the office will hate me. But the second day, I always have a headache. And the third day, actually, the third day is the easiest for me because I'm just miserable and I know it's almost over.
Yeah.
But I feel like for me, the idea of not being able to chew anything drives me crazy for 3 days. I just can't do it.
Yeah, you crave just wanting to eat something. I did a 5-day juice cleanse, and I think at the end of day 3, I was at my wit's end. And it's not that I never wanted. I love juice. I love that kind of thing, but I want to eat something and crunch on something.
Yeah.
And it's when I about 25 years ago I stopped smoking, and to stop smoking I carried a bottle of water because it was this that it was just bringing my hand to my mouth. I drank so much water, I chewed so much gum, I got TMJ. But you want to eat something. Juice just. I mean, we have teeth for a reason.
Right.
You know what I mean? And whether it's nuts or dried fruit, even something like that, I like snacking on.
Right.
You know what I mean? Put my teeth to work.
I'm the same way. I think the act of not eating bothers me the most. And yeah, I mean, I've always done them to jumpstart a diet, and I feel good after it. But days 2 and 3, especially 2, I'm really pissed
And I don't
off.
know how you are, but for me, there's a comfort you get to eating. And that's why
for sure.
they call it comfort food. But there's a certain thing that relaxes you with the act of eating.
Oh, of
and
course.
that's another thing that when people are going out to dinner or lunch or breakfast, when they come into a restaurant, they're looking for that ceremony of being served a plate and picking up your fork and knife and eating it. There's this certain relaxation that calms you. Exactly. And you don't get that with juice.
No, I'll tell you, and some of my agents are going to see me leave the office sometimes now in the middle of the day, and they're going to try to follow me because they'll know what I'm doing. But I sometimes will, and it's only for a half hour, I will walk away from the office and go sit in the corner at Potbelly's in the corner booth. Now they're going to know where I sit too. And I just take 30 minutes to just calm myself and eat by myself. I sound like a loner, but that's fantastic. And sometimes I love going out with people in the office and eating, and that's calming too. But the act of eating really does calm me.
I had a wreck the other day.
Yeah, that's what I eat at Potbelly's. Love the rack.
And that's another thing I hardly do is I'll go for fast food. But it's funny. I came out of the gym and I was so hungry. I wanted something fast. I'm standing in line at Potbelly thinking, I hope someone doesn't see me.
Yeah, you're gonna get noticed though. You're gonna be like, is he doing market research? For
Nothing against
sandwiches?
Potbelly. I think they do a great job. I mean, the wreck and a chocolate malt.
Yeah,
Oh my
that's
God.
the rack is my thing, and I go sit in the corner booth by myself.
Do you know about
with
the
a
secret menu?
No.
The wrecking ball?
No.
It's a wreck. Ask for a wrecking ball. It's a wreck with
Meatballs?
meatballs.
Oh.
It's so stupid. It's like, I don't know, 1,800 calories.
Oh, that's gonna hurt me.
No, it's not that much. It's like 17.
Well, my Chipotle
that's
burrito,
easy.
my Chipotle burritos are like 2,600 calories. So
Right.
it'll be a
Exactly.
diet. It'll be a diet.
That's like the baseball
cheat.
game. Why do they have to put the calories on there?
Oh, I hate when they put the calories on anything anymore.
You know what I mean? It's the nachos at Wrigley are like 2,000 calories.
Yeah.
Yep.
Makes you feel awful. And
Oh.
you're drinking beer the whole
Right.
time.
I'm not going to get it now.
Yeah.
It's like they're putting on a guilt trip.
Are you a big Chicago sporting fan?
I am. It's funny because I grew up a Caps fan. I grew up an Orioles fan.
Boom.
And when I was 7, I was on my little league team was the Cubs. So I was a Cubs fan from go. Now I follow the Cubs. I follow the Hawks. And the Hawks played the Capitals the other night, which is a win-win for me. And I get to be a Bears fan and a Ravens fan. So I kind of get the best of both worlds, but I love the Chicago team. So I'm not a big basketball person, but
Well, basketball for us, once the Jordan era ended, you can't really top that. I mean,
you
that's kind of gone.
can't. And I was lucky to be here during that. But I'm a huge Hawks fan. I love hockey. Big Hawks fan. Big Cubs fan. I see all the games.
And I was the Bears, thank God. Jeff and I have Bears tickets, and last year we sold them because they were so crappy the year before and nobody wanted to go to Bears games. So we said, we'll sell the whole season. And then this year we're like, the Bears were good last year. We're going to keep our tickets. And then they lose the first game. In that second game, when there was, 15 seconds left and we were
God.
down, I pulled my phone out to text them and say, wow, we really shit the bed again and we kept our tickets and they're terrible. And then they came off. And
This
pulled that
entire
away.
city, that last 30 seconds of that game, you probably could have heard a pin drop because I think everybody had inhaled and was holding their breath. And oh my
I'd walked away.
goodness,
I
what
saw
a-
the replay because I was like, they lost. It's over.
I was going nuts, and I mean, it could have been any teams playing, but the fact that it was the Bears made it so much better. But that's what I love about sports. I love that. I will watch the championship game of any sport, even golf, which I'm not.
not my sport.
I'll watch a highlight of it. But, tennis, I never watch tennis. But when it comes down to an Open or a Wimbledon, it's awesome because you're seeing the best of that sport. Right. Soccer, I'd even, if it's a championship, soccer's just, it's too much
you're like me.
field. You know what I mean?
I'm not a big soccer watching guy. I don't watch golf that much, and I agree, I'm not a tennis guy that much.
I listen to the Cubs on the radio. I'll catch every game. And my son told me the other day, he was like, how can you listen to baseball on the radio? It's so boring. I remember when I was a kid, my father used to turn on the Orioles game on AM, and back when we were kids, it was horrible reception. You couldn't even hear. It was scratches, and I would think, how does he listen? This is the most boring thing. And I told James, like, oh my God, I had literally said the same thing to my father when I was a kid, but now I catch. I mean, especially with the internet radio, I can catch the game wherever I am. And just I love Pat Hughes, and my wife hates my impression of him, but I love when, especially when you're watching hockey and you can see what's going on through the radio, because announcers and
hockey announcers are fantastic.
So good. So I love Pat Foley. So.
And hockey is so fast paced, so there's so much going on.
It's insane.
So it keeps your excitement level high.
It really does. And when announcers get into games, it's just so much fun.
Soccer, actually, when you're announcing it, is halfway fun, especially when it's in Spanish. But I don't like watching it that much. I'd probably rather listen to Spanish soccer, not that I know what they're saying.
Again, the highlight reel is good enough.
Yeah, the goal part gets you excited. They get so excited when the ball's getting near the goal, even before the goal.
Right.
Well, now I got to hear your Pat Hughes impression. You got to do it now to brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
No, I can't.
Come on now.
Well, if he does
Pat
that, you got to
Hughes.
sing.
The Cubs.
How does that work?
That's not that bad.
Do it again.
This is WGN, the Cubs Radio Network. I can't do it now.
Oh,
That wasn't that bad.
No, not at all. I feel
not
like
WGN.
I'm listening to Cubs game.
Well, I appreciate you coming
Sorry,
on. Your passion, and I say this a lot when people come in, and we've had a ton of passionate people. Your passion's infectious, but at a totally different level. You can tell from a very young age you've been very passionate about what you do, and it's infectious. And it definitely, I'm sure, comes through when you're working in the kitchen and innovating and curating. And best of luck in everything you do with Kitsch Fix, with Theater on the Lake, and obviously with the popcorn and the Bloody Mary mix.
Hold that up.
Hold it up.
Yeah.
Link to the website.
Yeah, we'll put the website in the comment section so people can just click it and order this. And I mean this, and I'm not just saying this because he's on the show. I'm not the biggest Bloody Mary guy, but I would drink this thing. So for John, John does watch the show almost every week. If you want me next time I'm over, we live about 5 minutes away from each other. To actually have Bloody Mary with you, go to Benny's next time and buy some of this.
Yeah. That is the stuff, right?
Because then I'll drink it with you.
Honest to goodness. Yep.
Thank you.
But that crap, and I don't know whatever else it is that you buy, it's not half. It's not a tenth as good as this stuff.
We'll get him a bottle.
Yeah. No, I'm going to take a bottle over for him. But thank you so much.
You would agree as far as the actual independent flavors.
Yes.
It stands out.
It tasted like juice. And I think what I don't like about the ones that I've had in the past is it just feels like a mix. And it's like when you have a margarita mix. That might kind of translate well. When you have a margarita mix, it just doesn't taste like a margarita.
Right.
This really tastes like juice, not the mixed version of what a Bloody Mary would
Exactly.
be.
And it's the same thing with pretty much anything. When I went to Benny's originally and I said, I want you to carry my mix, they said, well, it's expensive. And I said, well, you have Smirnoff sitting next to Grey Goose.
Right.
There's no difference. You have a lower priced vodka and you have a very expensive vodka. Mm-hmm. There's a market for all of it.
Right. That's
Try it with
point.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are people that want the good stuff. Let's give them the good stuff all over the board.
Well,
I'm sure
you have all the ingredients, like you said.
Yeah, 100%. And that is the selling point. This is for people that really like Bloody Mary mix. It's for people that you talk about Kitsch Fix being food ready to go, right? You don't have to do anything to it. This Bloody Mary mix ready to go. You don't have to doctor it up. Right, exactly. There's no adding all. You don't have to buy all the accoutrement. You just
a very amateur Bloody Mary maker in myself today was able to make a very tasty.
You did a great job, and you know what?
Fine
You
job.
can hide that and tell your friends that I just made you a Bloody Mary.
That's right.
You know
I'll
what I
just
mean?
pour it and just be like, here you go.
As long as it's disappearing from the shelf, that's fine with me.
No, it really is. Now, again, I'm not saying it because you're in here. It tastes
Thank
fantastic. And again, love the label. I'm a big label geek. It looks fantastic, and wish you nothing but the best.
Thanks,
I got to
man.
stop by
Appreciate
Theater
it.
on the Lake and check that out as well.
I do have to say, Maggie and I went and had dinner over there. Maybe 3-4 weeks, Cleetus?
Yeah,
Something somewhere in through there. So we got there and we each ordered. There were two an appetizer I wanted, one she wanted, and so we ordered them both. And they were fantastic. And so we're sitting and we're eating, and I saw her eyes get real big. And she's looking over my shoulder. I'm like, "What?" She goes, "What is that?" So I turned around, without staring, and it was the table behind us had just gotten the ceviche. And
I'm a ceviche. I love ceviche.
And-
Maybe some of my favorite food.
But it came out, and it was like on top of a guacamole mousse.
Nice memory.
So thank you.
It lasts only 3 weeks.
Hey,
By week
after
4 or
that,
5,
yeah.
he's screwed.
Tomorrow
fine.
I'd see you. I won't know who you are.
That's fine.
So we did that, and then you sent out the burrata, and I had never had burrata. I didn't know exactly what it was.
Delicious.
We didn't even wind up ordering entrees. I mean, just 4 or 5 appetizers were just unbelievable.
Those two dishes, that's funny because being from Baltimore, I originally wanted to put peel and eat shrimp on the menu at Theater on the Lake. And Susan Nickel, who's the general manager, was like, "Can you do a ceviche?" So my vision, and another funny thing is I'm allergic to avocado. So my vision was to kind of combine a Baltimore-influenced ceviche, but do a totally different take on it. So I had this idea of making a mousse with avocado. And Caesar, who's been my sous for over a decade, I just tell him what I want the avocado mousse to taste like. I want it to have a little acid with the lime juice, a little spice, blah, blah, blah. And then what we do is we layer it in this kind of old school Sunday parfait. And then the shrimp we cure with lime, and then I toss it in Old Bay seasoning. So it's a little bit of Baltimore influence ceviche. The burrata, my wife loves burrata. Wherever we go that has burrata, we'll get it just to see how good it is. And when I set out to find a good actual cheese, I got hooked up with this guy, Paolo Prodi. He's this Italian guy, makes it by hand on a daily basis. And it's super creamy. It's delicious. So I came up with this burrata dish for my wife, and it wound up being one of the more popular things on the menu. But I take Left Hand Milk Stout, which is a beer, and mix it with balsamic vinegar and reduce it to a syrup. And then I do what I call a seeded gremolata, which is parsley, olive oil, lemon, and garlic.
I'm so hungry, by the way, right now.
It
And
was so
I
good.
add toasted sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds, poppy, sesame seeds, sprinkle it on there, and then give you a little bread and a little salad with it. It's
Well, I'm a fan of both those dishes.
really good.
I probably order in, using Uber Eats, a ceviche 3 times a month to my house just to have ceviche. So I can't wait to stop by and
this
try it
is
all.
so
I'm gonna.
good.
But kind of like John's saying, that's how I enjoy experience restaurants, and that's how I like to feed people. And I said that to you, John. Like, get a little bit of a lot of different things because you get to try. Why commit to one thing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean. So I like creating menus where people are encouraged to share. It establishes more community, especially at a table when you're breaking bread with someone, whether it's your spouse or a friend or just a group of people. I really enjoy that. So I like creating opportunities to do that, both in food and beverage.
That's fantastic.
So.
And Maggie commented, "Dinner was awesome." She's watching.
Oh, very good.
So-
It was.
Thank you,
it
Maggie.
was.
Thanks
It
for
really was.
watching,
It was
Maggie.
fantastic.
Well, I'm gonna have to stop by there. Maybe one of our wheelhouse lunches that might have to be our spot.
I think that would be I'm absolutely. You name it, I'm there.
Well, thanks again for coming on the show. This was a blast. I got to drink on air. I got myself very hungry, and I learned so much from you.
Next
so
time
I
I'll bring
appreciate
food. Thank you for having me. I appreciate
We
it.
love having people back on, so please come back
Absolutely.
on and
Yep.
bring food and popcorn, because I'm going to order the popcorn and
Deal.
probably eat too much of it.
And I know you just had the fundraiser, the Cooking Up a Cure.
Cooking up a cure, yeah.
Yeah,
It was
but
Let
phenomenal.
us know next year when it's coming up. We love
Yeah.
kind of trying to get the viewers of the show
it'd be
interested in our
great.
guests' charities and events. So
Absolutely.
let us know next
Yep.
year. And I think that's it John, for this week. I will go ahead and announce next week.
Yeah, please. You've got some fantastic people coming on.
Yeah, I have Reno and Tony, who are the owners of Neighborhood Loans, on. They've been great mentors to me in the real estate world. They're fantastic business owners, entrepreneurs, and also really good coaches on business in general. So I'm excited to have those two guys on next week. Like I said, I've learned a lot from them. I think you guys are going to learn a lot from them, and their backstory of when they started in the industry to now owning one of the biggest power players in the mortgage world nationally now is a fantastic story. So I'm excited to have them on next Wednesday at 3:00.
Look forward to
Talk about changing gears.
Yeah, food. They love to eat. Reno just lost, from the Facebook picture, it looks like he just lost like 70, 80 pounds. So I'm sure he's eating healthier.
Yes.
But those
yes.
guys love taking people out to wine and dine.
Cool.
So we might have to have like a collaboration there.
There you go. All right.
That'd be awesome.
But
I'm down with that.
anything from you, John?
No, this was a great show.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Cleetus.
Thank you.
Great guest and a great chef. I can attest. Great chef.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming on, and
Thanks
we'll see
for
you guys
having me.
next week at 3:00.
In 3, 2, 1.